Hello and welcome back. This is Arseni, and today I want to do something a little bit different than my previous few videos. I'm going to be playing Battlefield Gothic Armada. I'm just going to be playing a skirmish against the AI, but I actually want to talk a little bit about a recent article on Kotaku called There Are Far Too Many Warhammer Games. And I'll put the link to the article below. It's a good article, actually, and it opened my eyes to some of the Warhammer games that I didn't even realize were actually out. Before I get started, I do want to kind of quickly show an Imperial Navy and a Chaos fleet that I've leveled up a bit more because I've unlocked some new options and some new ships. I think for the Imperial Navy, I think I unlocked either the Tyrant or the Dictator class cruiser. So the Dominator class cruiser, there it is. It's basically the same thing as the Lunar class cruiser. They look very similar, except the Lunar class has this lance on the prow, and the Dominator has the Nova cannon, probably the most devastating weapon in Battlefield Gothic arsenal, but it's also quite a bit unreliable. Meanwhile, I also upgraded one of my light cruisers. I gave them a favor for the Space Marines, for the Adeptus Astartes. Unfortunately, it made the ship look like this. So it basically gave them the, I think, Imperial Fists, the yellow and black. I think it's the Imperial Fists. Please tell me if I'm wrong. It gave it the Imperial Fists paint job and this kind of a neat little black winged skeleton. I think I like the Inquisition look a little bit more myself. Maybe it's just because I'm a much bigger fan of Inquisition related material. And for Chaos, I'm just going to return to the main menu. Again, this is something that really bothers me. I wish you could go back to the fleet selection menu instead of having to go back to the main menu, but there it is. And I actually want to show another Chaos ship that has a Nurgle favor on it, which actually looks pretty cool. Before I do that, so this was my Slaughter class cruiser. Looks alright. And this is the Murder class cruiser, which is looks a little bit different. I mean, you basically see that in terms of visual customization or visual look. I mean, Chaos ships all look in a certain way, and there's very little visual difference that is immediately apparent, which actually makes telling between ships, telling different ships apart a little bit difficult. But I do have a Nurgle ship, and there it is. This is a Hellbringer Mark II cruiser with a favor with the mark of Nurgle on it. So look at that, the wiggling tentacles, really cool. The eyes, they actually do blink. I noticed them blinking in battle, so that's really kind of cool and disgusting, and it's covered in this pus and and spines. It just looks gross. It just looks disgusting. I love it. Anyway, so back to the original article. So the article, if you want to read it for yourself, basically argues that there are too many Warhammer games that are either currently out on PC or on mobile. And I think the author counts something like 25 or 27 games released just in the last 24 months. I think it was maybe it's basically since 2014. I think that's what he had it at, which is a lot of games, right? I remember when Dawn of War first came out, and I absolutely loved that game. I still play it even today. And Dawn of War came out, and it had Winter Storm expansion. It had the other two expansions. It was a very well received game. It's a really fun, great game. Tons of factions, tons of customization, lots of great mods for that game. And then it just, well, you know, went nowhere, and that was pretty much the only Warhammer 40k at least game we got, and it was the Warhammer Fantasy one, the strategy game. That was not very good. It was very faithful, but it wasn't very good. And then just for years and years and years, there really weren't any Warhammer games, and then suddenly, boom, there's this huge glut, right? Well, it's because Game Workshop changed their licensing policies. Basically, they made the license open to anyone. You know, anyone can go and create a Warhammer or 40k or Warhammer Fantasy game, and if that game makes money, then they owe, you know, portion of the profits to Game Workshop. And yeah, it sounds like a really good deal, right? Well, the Kotaku article, if you read below, argues that maybe it's not such a great deal. You know, first of all, there's the author argues pretty well that there's a bit of an oversaturation. There's a ton of games, and sometimes a ton of these games you don't even know they exist. And frankly, a lot of them just aren't very good. If you go on Steam and you actually look for some of the games that the author mentions, you'll see that the reviews are often mixed, and for some of the games are incredibly negative, actually. Plus, there's a bunch of mobile games that I never even heard of, but yeah, like I didn't even know they existed. So there's a few games that the author mentions that I didn't want to kind of mention, and some are really good, and some haven't been very good. You know, obviously, Space Marine is a terrific game. Loved it, even if it was a little bit short. There were a few other games that you know, you may not have heard of, but are actually very good. The Warhammer Fantasy Vermintide is a Left 4 Dead style co-op shooter that is absolutely fantastic. I love that game. I wish I could play it more, but my internet connection is not great. But I hope maybe to make a couple of videos of that down the line. There is Eternal Crusade, which I haven't played yet. Reviews seem to be quite positive, but the asking price is still 44 Canadian dollars for a game in early access, so I'm not going to get that. There is the MOBA, the Warhammer 40k Dark Nexus Arena, and I actually downloaded that game. I haven't tried it yet, but I do want to check it out because I do really like MOBAs, and I definitely want to check it out, maybe make a couple of videos of that. There's Armageddon, which is a fantastic turn-based, large-scale 40k game. Kind of, if you ever played Panzer General or the recent excellent Panzer Corps, same thing except with, you know, Warhammer 40k units. So you've got, you know, Land Raiders and Titans and whole, you know, battalions of troops that you throw in battle. But some of the others have not been very good. Storm of Vengeance particularly was very harshly criticized for being a lazy reskin of the developer's previous game. The Deathwatch game was a mobile port from mobile to the PC, and it was a very lazy, very bad port. It did everything that a port could do wrong, right? Okay, we're gonna take that, and I actually really want to try my new Astartes cruiser, so I'm gonna put that in, and we can actually fit an Inquisition ship. Yeah, let's fit another Inquisition ship. Great, we got 4 cruisers, so we're fighting chaos. This is gonna be some heavy fighting. Oh yeah, in this mission, by the way, I'm going to have to recover data. So one of the enemy ships has data on it, and what I have to do is I have to board that ship successfully, and when I board that ship successfully, I get the data. Now my ship has the data, and now my ship has to warp out with the data, but the enemy can now board my ship that has the data. So it's a really, actually I really like this game mode. It's very neat because the battle constantly shifts back and forth. But anyway, so you know, so you can see that there are some pretty good games that have been released. Oh, okay. For some reason the sound is back. I'm not sure why the sound suddenly started up again. Sorry about that. Just gonna try to deal with that. Try to shut it off. I'm not sure why it's suddenly unmuted. Okay, now, like I said, this game is in beta, so these bugs, they happen. Anyway, so there are some good games. There are some very poor games. But there are also some games coming out very soon, actually in the next few months, the next really 2-3 months, for Warhammer and Warhammer 40k Warhammer Fantasy properties that really got my attention. Obviously, Total War Warhammer is, I can't wait for that game. There's this game, Battlefield Gothic Armada. I definitely want to see the full mode with a single player campaign, Orcs, the Eldar, and hopefully they'll release DLCs or even full expansions for Tau, for Tyranids, for definitely Tyranids, maybe some more Astartes fleets, and so on. And there's Man of War Corsair, which is a kind of Assassin's Creed Black Flag style game set in the Warhammer Fantasy universe, which, you know, sounds pretty cool. The graphics don't look that hot, but the premise is pretty good, and the developer, I think, has done some good stuff in the past. So the Kotaku article argues that it's oversaturation. Now this is basically bad. This is diluting the brand, and it's doing a disservice to the property. Okay, and I don't know if I agree with that. All right. I think that what Games Workshop did is they realized they have a hot IP. Okay. And maybe it's a good thing to be stingy with it. Maybe it is. Okay. But they are trying a different business model for them. You know, this more open licensing, this willingness actually on their part to work closely with the developers, even though they might not see immediate return. I mean, that's pretty cool. That's not really a lot like Games Workshop that you know, that we know and love, or know and hate. If you look at some of the what some of the past or ex Game Workshop fans have been saying. But I think it's a good thing, and that we actually have these all these games. And the reason I think it's a good thing is because the sound suddenly cut in. 1 second. Now everything is muted. I'm just gonna mute everything again. Oh, there's a minefield. We're gonna want to avoid that. And I think that's a good thing. And I think it's a good thing because, first of all, it shows this willingness on Games Workshop part to adjust their business strategy. And I think it's a good thing because the cream rises to the top. Okay, so I mentioned some of these games, right? Deathwatch, Kill Team, Storm of Vengeance. But how many of those games have most people actually heard? Even the people who follow, you know, Warhammer pretty religiously. All right, the sound thing is getting pretty annoying. I'm just trying to line up my Nova cannon. It's got that short range. So like I was saying, cream rises to the top. And what I'm seeing is that a lot of these games that are just not very good are games that people haven't actually heard of. And in the case of the actually good games, people have heard of them. You know, you have heard of Dawn of War. Most people have, Warhammer fans have heard of Space Marine, right? They have heard of Dawn of War. They've heard of Space Marine. Well, hopefully they've heard of that. You know, there's a Total War Warhammer coming out. And the other reason why I think it's actually good is because you actually see quite a wide variety of just game genres, right? You've got laning strategy, if you want to call it strategy games. I need to get my my lunar cruiser out of here. And let's fire the Nova cannon. Do we get it? I don't know. Let's warp in. The enemy escaped. I lost that one. Unfortunately, one of my ships also got heavily damaged, my lunar class. It wasn't destroyed, but it was damaged, so it's going to be out of commission for one more game. So, as I was saying, one of the good things about this is that there's actual choice in type of game you want to play. Some of the Warhammer games released in the last couple of years are like a basically digital version of board games, like Talisman, Horus Heresy. You've got shooters like Vermintide. You've got fleet action like Battlefleet Gothic. You've got grand turn-based strategy like Armageddon. You've got faithful kind of squad-based XCOM style games like Space Hulk. I know Warhammer was first, XCOM came later, but you know, it plays in many ways like the newer XCOM video game. You've got football. If you want to play Blood Bowl, right? It's basically football with spells and cheating and other really neat stuff. I love that game. You've got massive online shooters like Eternal Crusade. You even got a MOBA. So let's say you are a video game fan and you're also a fan of Warhammer, and maybe you like MOBAs. Well, you can try Dark Nexus Arena, and maybe you'll like it because it has the Warhammer theme and it's a MOBA. Maybe you like straight up first-person shooters, and you like to compete, in which case you might want to pick up Eternal Crusade. Maybe you like kind of thoughtful turn-based, so you might go for Space Hulk or Mordheim. Maybe you like card games, and there's actually Warhammer Arcade Magic, which has just been released. I don't know anything about that game, but it's there. It's not Hearthstone, but it is a Warhammer fantasy themed card game. Well, that sounds interesting. So the point is, yes, a lot of these games are not going to be very good. Some of them may actually be atrocious. But you can do your research. 5 to 10 minutes, look through the Steam reviews, maybe look through some of the review sites, see what the actual Warhammer fans are saying about it, and decide. And you're going to have that choice of many games in many different genres. And what's good is that because the developers don't have to pay Game Workshop a licensing fee, they are free to try out new ideas or to try out Warhammer in different genres where maybe Games Workshop didn't think it would work, right? Sometimes it may work, Vermintide, and sometimes it might not, like the Abysmal Storm of Vengeance, lane tower defense style game. Anyway, these are my 2 cents on whether or not there are too many Warhammer games. In my opinion, no. I think it's a great idea. I think it's the right the right step for Games Workshop. I think it's good for the fans because now we get so many more games and so much more variety. Will it oversaturate? Possibly. Possibly. A lot of these games, you haven't heard of them. They're out, you can play them, but maybe a lot of people haven't heard of them. But I think that's, again, because the cream rises to the top. Yes, there's going to be a lot of Warhammer games. Yes, we're not going to hear about a lot of them. We're not even going to realize that some of them exist. But the good ones, we can find out. We will hear about them. And we will be able to play them. And that is a lot better than that abysmal years-long gap between the release of the first Dawn of War and the release of, Dawn of War 2 and Space Marine, when Warhammer games finally started to come back. Anyway, these are my final thoughts, and if you like this video, please like. If you know somebody who might be interested in Warhammer themed video games or Battlefield Gothic, please share this video with them. Thanks, and I'll see you in my next video.